Welcome. I'm Dr. Liz, an entrepreneur, speaker, podcaster, mom, and wife. This podcast is about hypnosis, but also about all kinds of ways to help you live your fullest life, to heal, transform, to play the long game and go after the joy. You can see more about me at drlizhypnosis.com. Hop over there to get a free hypnosis file to decrease fear and anxiety, or one to increase emotional stability. They're there just for you. I hope you enjoy the podcast as much as I do. Peace. Hey everyone, Dr. Liz here. Hope you're doing okay this week. My guest is Christina Woods, who's a hypnotherapist herself. It's always a pleasure to have another hypnotherapist on the podcast, and we get to talk about all kinds of stuff, hypnosis. Christina had a successful 20-year career in higher education when she was hit with severe vertigo. If you've ever had vertigo, it's where you can't keep your balance and the room is spinning, that type of thing. It is awful. Okay. It is awful. It affects every aspect of your life. Driving, working, cooking, standing, all of that. So she happened upon a random hypnosis file on YouTube by Marisa Peer called The Healing Vortex. I put the link to it in the show notes so that you can easily access that. She began to listen to it. It began to help and resolve her symptoms. And then eventually she trained to be a hypnotherapist herself with the creator of that file, Marisa Peer. So it's quite an interesting interview. We talk a lot about self-sabotage and how we end it and why the subconscious mind doesn't always feel like a partnership. We do very similar types of work, it sounds like. And so we discuss that as well. Like, what are we doing in hypnosis to heal deeper subconscious beliefs, to heal self-sabotage in a lot of cases. So I hope you enjoy the interview, and I hope you're healthy and safe. Peace. Hi, Christina. Welcome to the Hypnotize Me podcast.
Great. Thank you for having me, Dr. Liz.
Absolutely. I am really looking forward to our conversation because I know your real clientele is women who are also full of doubt or perhaps self-sabotage, right?
Yes, that's absolutely what I focus on because that's what I was for many, many years. So
yeah. Well, the vast majority of my audience is actually women. I think it's like 82% or so at my last survey.
Okay. Yep.
So I have lots of female listeners or people who identify as female. And I think this experience of self-doubt is a very common one for women. So how did you come into this as your own specialty? You said you lived that way for a long time. Is that why?
Yeah, I sure did. So, I grew up with a single mom, and life wasn't terrible, but life wasn't always easy. And I think on the outside, it looked like everything was pretty good. I was homecoming queen, straight A student, went to college, and got married and had the picket fence and 2 kids and got into this great corporate career. But that was my way of kind of overcompensating for the fact that I never, ever felt good enough and was always trying to be super mom and doing what so many women I have found, and I didn't realize at the time, try to do, which is just be, people pleasers and super mom and don't worry about me. I can do it. I can work 60, 70 hours a week and do baseball practice and make a great dinner and wear high heels and do all these things. And it wasn't till I crashed and burned that I realized I had to focus on, okay, what's going on? What am I not looking at within myself that is broken? It's definitely broken. So after a divorce, after 25 years and being in a corporate career for 30 years and just realizing I needed to make a shift, did I start to do some inner work and realize there were a lot of things within myself that I felt like I wasn't good enough. And so I did a lot of inner work and completely changed my life and have just come into some real freedom and enthusiasm about what life can be like when you love yourself and
So
do what you love.
Before we jump into that, what did your crash and burn look like?
Yeah. So my crash and burn looked like, well, it started with just deep unhappiness and constantly trying to prove myself. I was in kind of the cutthroat corporate world of, you got to do better. You got to do better. So always getting a promotion and never being happy, always making more money and never being happy. And why wasn't that good enough? And, kind of scratching my head after a while going, all right, what's going on? And so, I started looking within and doing some spiritual work, and then my health started declining greatly. And
how so? Like, what happened? If you don't mind sharing.
Yeah. And it's actually how I came about hypnotherapy too. I had, huge thyroid issues, adrenal gland issues, fatigue issues. And the real crux was when I had a severe vertigo issue. I was at a point where my oldest son had moved out of state. I was divorced. My youngest son was about to go off to college, and I had extreme vertigo. I went to about 25 doctors, the best neurologists in the area, you name it, and nobody could figure out what was wrong.
Really?
And no one could figure out what was wrong. It wasn't the ears, it wasn't the eyes, they couldn't figure out what was wrong.
Like all day, every day, or it would just hit out of the blue? Like how would it affect you? The vertigo?
It hit out of the blue, and it was all day, every day. I couldn't work, I couldn't walk, I couldn't do anything. So you can't
drive.
No, you cannot drive. You can't go to the bathroom. You can't, and so, yet I knew in my gut that this had a lot to do with all of these changes going on in my world, feeling really out of control and really just in a bad place. And, and when doctors tell you they don't know what's wrong and they're giving you different medication, and some medication started to help a little bit where I could start to work a little bit. And luckily I had a boss that was so loving and wonderful, but still, I mean, you have to work. It's not a long-term plan.
Right.
You got to pay the bills. So, I actually found, Marisa Peer, how I studied hypnotherapy, and she had just a hypnosis audio on YouTube. And I listened to it one night out of just complete, desperacy, and listened to it crying one night in my bed. And it was called A Healing Vortex. And it calmed me down, and it really just brought me back and grounded me. And it did something, and things started getting better and better and better. And
so you continued to listen to it?
Like I continued every day. And I started texting my friends and sending them this audio, and I started feeling better and better. And I remember bouncing into the neurologist's office and just being so excited, like, I found something that's making me feel better. And him just looking at me like I was crazy. And okay. Anyway, so, he would.
Well, it's interesting because it's not even like, it wasn't specific to vertigo. It was just this general hypnosis that you were listening to.
Right. It was called The Healing Vortex. And it was kind of like this idea of a vortex, like a tornado coming through the top of your head, down your whole body, and kind of cleansing out thoughts and feelings, and then even physical things from the top of your head down to the bottom of your feet.
Got it.
And so whatever thoughts I had, or emotions or feelings or even physical issues, you could kind of make it your own. It was very generic. It was on YouTube. It wasn't specific to me even.
Yeah.
And it was that powerful that I thought, wow. And then, so that was very, very eye-opening, how powerful the mind was. And I knew I wanted to make a career change, and I didn't know what it was. And it just kind of started a self journey of healing and picking away and peeling the onion about dealing with my own pain that I had been too afraid to work on, and how freeing it felt when I did that.
Yeah. So give me an age range here when this process started for you.
Yeah, it started about 45.
45. Okay.
About 8 years ago. The real meltdown, I'll call it, and then freedom. But about 45. And I started going on a lot of spiritual retreats and taking time out for myself, which was something I never, ever did. And
it's hard to do with kids in the house too, unless you have real support for that.
It really is. And there's so much guilt. And I was definitely brought up where, you just don't do that. There's no time for that. You work, you do what you need to do. Work is hard. Your kids are first. And of course, kids are first. And as a mom.
Yeah. But it like creeps in. I know it does for me. Like just recently, I was planning a trip to go see my best friend, and I haven't seen her in over 3 years because of the pandemic. And I kept having this thought, oh, maybe I should take my 16-year-old, she would love to see that area of the country. She's over in Seattle. Occurred to me one day, no, you do every day for this 16-year-old. Like it's okay to take a trip just for myself, just to go and hang out with my best friend for a couple of days. Like, no one's going to die here. Like no one's even going to be sad. Like I was probably going to be super happy that I'm gone for a little bit,
It's so hard sometimes.
But it's sort of like this guilt of like, oh, I should do more. I should show her another area of the country, or I should do this, or it is hard.
Yeah. Someone said to me one time that, imagine that you have this, we have to fill our own cup. We know that, or we know the whole thing on the airplane where you put your own oxygen mask on first and before your kids. But we forget that, when we translate that into life. But someone recently, a coach said to me, imagine you have this kind of water bottle in your own cup, and we tend to give our cup to everybody else to fill up, but to make us feel whole or to complete. And a lot of times they don't really know what to do with it when we hand them our cup to make us feel whole.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. If you think about it, you hand your kid our cup and they're like, okay, thanks, Mom. What do you want me to do with this? Go fill your own cup. And they like it when we do things for ourselves, and we come back, they're renewed and we're renewed. So
yes. So did this hypnosis that you were listening to, did it continue to heal the vertigo? Like, did the vertigo go away eventually, or is it something that you have to do maintenance on? I'm just curious.
No, it did. It did go away. And I was on medication for a short period of time because I had started it, and then I weaned it off against doctor's advice. But I did. And then I started to piggyback it with other hypnotherapy. So I started to dig deep into the root cause, because, the type of hypnotherapy I do is rapid transformational therapy. So we get to the kind of the root cause of, all right, what was really causing that vertigo in the first place? And I got to a lot of feelings of abandonment and other issues that my children leaving home and a divorce and being home alone for the first time in my life were triggering. And so I started to unpack all of that through hypnotherapy. And so all of that healing, is not just one thing. Yeah, really helped. And then I watched another, I guess, webinar with Marisa, and journaled about it and kind of put it away. And I think a year or so later, I was trying to figure out, I had been in my corporate career in higher education 30 years. And so to change something you've done for 30 years is a big deal.
It is. Yeah.
But I wanted to, and I came across this journal where I had apparently written Marisa Peer's and hypnotherapy is going to change my life. And I wanted to change careers. Wasn't sure what to do. What am I going to do?
So you'd forgotten about that you had written this, and you were looking back.
Yeah. I was looking back.
Yeah.
And I opened it and I was like, that's it. I'm doing it. And literally I enrolled in the school that day. So
Wow.
I was like, this is a
Awesome. I love
sign.
it.
It's a
Yeah.
sign.
Yes. Well, it's interesting because you probably, because of all your 30 years in corporate higher education, you probably bring so much understanding to clients around what it's like to be in that environment, even when you're working with rapid transformation, let's say.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, and most of my higher education, 25 years of it was in admissions. And so I was always working with
Mm,
students who were trying to make a decision. And I worked in the part of education that wasn't very traditional. So they might have wanted to be mechanics or artists or fashion designers.
mm,
So they were always kind of going against the grain of what society wanted them to do,
yeah. Yeah.
and helping people follow their passion. But, that requires a lot of self-esteem
It
and
does. Yeah.
um, not feeling good enough. And, dad's a lawyer, but, son wants to be an auto mechanic. What's that about? Or daughter wants to be a fashion designer and mom's a lawyer.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of full circle back. But so I had my own journey with it. It
Uh-huh.
was funny is okay, I've got to practice what I preach here for all these years with all these students. And now when I work with clients, I know the value of, there's not a lot that goes well in life if we don't love ourselves and know that we are
Mm-hmm.
enough and fill our own cup up. But when we do that, I've found relationships and the bank account and all these other things really start to come in
Yes. Yeah. It's interesting because I
just
have
come into alignment.
Joan Sotkin, who I listen to quite a bit and take some of her programs and have done coaching with as a client. And she's more of a money coach. And she always says that feeling of not enough money is really about you feeling not enough. It has nothing to do with the actual money numbers, So when you begin to practice feeling enough, like you are enough, then the money will follow. That is sort of her philosophy. Just to sum it up, just on that one topic, she talks about so much. But so you found that to be true too. When I began to work on feeling enough, the bank account lines up, all kinds of things line up. Friends, I'm assuming, relationships, all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, even my own personal journey, part of me not feeling enough was had a lot to do with money. I would earn it and it would go away. And, part of it was I was raised, we earned, my mom was kind of a paycheck to paycheck thing. So I just sort of thought that's what you did. And, but we live what we learn. And I kept wondering, scratching my head, like, why do I keep making more? And it just goes away. So, but I did have to really start to value myself because money is just energy. And when you look at it like energy, and I'm energy and money's energy, and I'm enough and the money's enough, and it's a reflection of how I feel about myself. It just completely was a paradigm shift and everything changed. And it's not even an issue anymore. And so many clients I work with have feelings about money, and the things we work on have literally nothing to do with money. It's like weight, nothing to do with food.
Yes. So have you seen that transform as well? Like some of the clients you've been working with when you begin to work on that stuff?
Oh, absolutely. So excited. I just got a message the other day from a client who is a very successful prosecutor. And so, great career, very, very dynamic, very confident at work. But when it came to love relationships, she was always dating, narcissists and men who weren't available, and just couldn't understand why am I, and a people pleaser, just would put everything aside that she cared about or meant anything to her to just, please whatever they wanted. And she wasn't, was obviously not very happy. And we worked on what was the root cause of that? What was the reason for that? And she actually thought it was because she was adopted. So she thought she felt, well, I must not feel like I I'm needed or wanted. And when we went into hypnotherapy, we realized actually that wasn't the issue at all. It was feeling not safe when she was younger in certain circumstances, and the meaning she attached to a few things that had happened to her, and realizing that was then and this is now, and she's very, very safe, and switching her mindset. But what was wonderful is not only did her relationship improve, and she kind of broke up with a lousy boyfriend and she's in a beautiful relationship now, but she's stopped taking anxiety medication when she goes to court now. We didn't even work on that.
Bonus.
Added bonus. Yeah. And it wasn't even until I had worked with her, I think we were on the second or third session, that she even disclosed to me, and I had asked that she was on anxiety medication. And she's like, yeah, I don't take it anymore. I'm like, wait a second. We didn't talk about that.
Interesting. So can you tell us about
that was really
the
nice.
rapid transformational model, let's say, like when you're talking about rapid, is this one session that's 2 hours? Are you talking 3 sessions? Like what's the rapid part of it?
Yeah, it is rapid. So it is anywhere from, it could be 1 session to 3 sessions. It might be 4 or 5, but it's typically 1 to 3 sessions, and they are about 2 hours. The model is really, with hypnosis, the mind is so powerful and in that suggestive state. So, but rather than just giving suggestions, what we do is we'll get to what is the root cause and reason for the feeling in the first place. So if it is, I'm not good with money and I want to be better at money, or I'm not feeling confident at work. I'm always self-conscious about what I say, or I'm always in bad relationships. So we'll get to the root cause and reason for that feeling in the first place, and really dig and find out. And then from there, we'll really interrupt and reframe the reason and the root. And I think once you find out the root, it's so amazing when people can look at something and have that paradigm shift and say, wow, that's why I think that. It's kind of like when you find out Santa Claus isn't real, you don't really need to really say much more. You sort of go, oh, okay, yeah, I know now. He's not real. So you have this aha moment, and knowledge is power. So then it's really just a matter of letting the subconscious accept a new thought and making that new thought familiar. So from there, we upgrade the new belief with an audio recording that they'll listen to for about 3 weeks. But from there, we'll really upgrade the belief, and it's, the audio is customized, and with whatever came up.
Are you creating this audio,
whatever that,
like after their session and sending it to it? Or is it part of the session that's recorded that they then take home and listen to, like assuming the healing part of the session? Like how is it done? Yeah. So kind of how a session works is, towards the end of the session, once we've really done the work and we've regressed and gone back to maybe 3-4 different scenes to really help us identify what the root cause was, we can figure out that, then we don't want to just sit there and talk about, all right, now we know why you have this issue. We want to reframe and change it. We have different techniques that we use with RTT to interrupt and change and switch it and upgrade it. So at the end of that session, absolutely right then and there, I will create the audio recording. So it's nothing's cookie cutter. It's right then and there, very impactful. I'm using very powerful, impactful words. So I'll create it right then and there. And then afterward, I will, put it to some, my windows tend to creak in my office. So I'm like, I try to get the windows out
and maybe do a few edits if the dog barked in the background or something like that. But, Yeah. Yeah, something like that, an airplane or something. But and then I'll send it to
Mm-hmm.
them uh to, add whatever they might like to it. Some people like a longer music intro or things like that. But it's usually about a 15-minute audio recording. And then I meet with clients once a week afterward to touch base with them. And whenever you're making, new thoughts familiar, because the mind wants to go back to what's familiar, and what's familiar might not be what's the best for that client. It might be a belief about low self-esteem and you're not good enough. And, and you need to not put yourself first. So we're trying to interrupt that belief and make a new belief familiar. So there could be some resistance, and
Great.
it
It
might
sounds
be
very
making
similar
them feel like they
to
don't want to listen to
what I
it.
call
So
core
helping
healing. I
them
was trained in a
support
technique called
support
core
them through
healing,
that
but it sounds
process
very, very
is really
similar to
important.
that, where we really are going back, looking for that root cause, and then healing that old belief and creating the new ones, right? Creating the new helpful beliefs that's gonna help them change their lives. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds very, very similar.
Right.
So this sounds like a beautiful process that you
Oh, I love
do.
that. Core healing.
Can
I've never heard
we
of that. I'm going to
talk a
write that
little bit
down.
about self-sabotage? I know that is one of your specialty areas, and that does come up, I think, when people come in for hypnotherapy. I know in my own experience it does, but you're also saying sometimes it comes up afterwards. Like we do the healing, we go through that process, but the mind keeps wanting to go back to this familiar thought, which is often self-sabotage. Like, yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
sometimes I'll say to someone like, this is actually recently, someone came in for insomnia, and I'm trained in cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. And
it
it's
really is.
it's not a hypnosis based treatment. It's a CBT treatment, but there's very specific things you do. And so this person comes back the next week, and I said, I don't understand. You're paying a lot of money to see me. You're taking your time. Why would you
Mm-hmm.
not do what I recommended? But it's a straight case of self-sabotage. So why do we do it? And how do you think we end it as well?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah. Gosh, I asked that same question, why do you think you didn't listen to your audio all week? Yeah, well, Marisa Peer, who created RTT, has these rules of the mind that are so fabulous for us to help our clients with. And one of them is that our mind wants to move us away from pain and toward pleasure. But what do we link to pain and what do we link to pleasure? We think that, of course, we know what pleasure is and we know what pain is, but that depends. When we're when we're programmed, when we're young, it depends. What did we link to keeping us safe? Keeping us safe might have been staying very timid, having some anxiety, being hyper vigilant, being on alert, having not, don't say anything right now. That's a dangerous thing for you to speak right now. And so it depends. What did you link to pain and what did you link to pleasure? So, eating is a self-sabotaging behavior. Many of us have wonderful memories, right, of happy holidays, and joy and love was expressed through food, and we link a lot of pleasure to that. And but at the end of the day, love is not in a hamburger, love is not in a piece of pie, but we link pleasure to that. So we have to kind of look at each
Got
client
it.
differently.
Okay. So
But
let's
what
say
do we
someone
link
comes
to
back and they
pleasure, and
haven't
what do we
listened to
link
the
to
audio.
pain? And then
So you're
relink
exploring
it.
with
So find
them.
out how
What are you linking
what do we link
to
to those
pleasure,
things, and
or
then find out how our mind works. So
why
much
does
of
it
the
feel
subconscious and
painful to listen to
self-sabotage
the
is
audio? Like, get
just
concrete with me
rewiring
here,
what we link
yeah,
to pleasure
if
and
you don't
what we
mind.
link to
Okay.
pain. Keep Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, for example, yeah. So, well, for example, let me see. I have a client recently who just didn't want to listen to it or was really uncomfortable. So I recently a client is working on self-esteem and some money blocks. And this is actually one of my male clients. I don't have too many male clients. And he did have some resistance to
artistic
listening to it.
ability.
And he's an artist. And his association with money is that I can't really be this incredible artist and express art if I make money. So if I make money, then I won't really be this beautiful artist. So I want to change. I want to make money, but then I'm going to lose this core part of who I am. Yeah. And so I don't want to lose that. I don't want to lose this core identity, this beautiful part of who I am. He doesn't attach that to making money. It's complete opposite. And some things that he was raised with were unhappy memories of. He actually was raised in a family that had a lot of money. There was unhappiness to that. So he sees being free and no money as complete freedom and separation from kind of the pain that he saw money attached to. So now we're linking like, no, actually you can have those things too and still be creative and bring joy to people through your expression. And you were put on the universe to express, and it's your divine right to still to earn money.
Okay.
What
yes.
Is the joy
so
that you can bring
was
to
the original session
earning money,
like working on that or something else? Like, did you discover this when he came back and said, hey, no, I haven't listened to that audio?
How positive they are. He's associates pleasure to earning money. And he's just like busting through the seams now and growing his business, and his money block is completely shifted. So that's kind of an example. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
The
Very
original
true.
session, so that was the week where he's like, you know what, I'm not listening. I'm making excuses because the mind starts to get uncomfortable and say, wait a second, these new thoughts, these aren't safe. I want to go back to what's safe and what's familiar. These new thoughts are not safe and familiar.
Got it. Okay. So in that one, you're exploring it a little bit more. You know what happened, but it's also more of a, I call it like a booster, a reinforcer of the new way of thinking.
Right. And we also, we revisited why in the first place he had that. So we did some inner child, work and revisited why, let's look back at why you didn't feel safe. When you were 5 and you were 10, it made perfect sense that you didn't find joy in all that money, and that didn't make you feel good. And this is why. And, let's honor that and just love that little boy and understand why he felt that. And that was then, and this is now, instead of saying, of course you should love money and how ridiculous.
Right. Yeah.
So, and once you honor and understand, like, yeah, that little boy, of course he didn't like that when he was treated that way and made to feel, and you respect and honor, and he has so much compassion for that side of him. And he could see and honor, his true essence, which is, I'm an artist, but I can still make money, and I'm not going to be like, that part of my family that I don't want to be like. I can be my own way and make my own money and do good with it. He was able to connect pleasure and joy with it. A big one with self-esteem in women is people pleasing. They don't link. I find that they will reject listening to it, their audio recording, because they'll find other reasons like, I want to take care of my family. I'm doing everything else. So I don't have time to listen to it.
I just didn't have time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Which is really, I don't want to be rejected by anybody else. So I'm not going to make time for me. So we'll work on why it's important to take time for them and reminding them that they are enough. And you in the beginning said something about the power of I am not enough. I'll often have clients put in their phone, write on their mirror, put on their computer, just the words, I am enough. And it's incredible, the changes, just having that show up everywhere in their house, writing it on lipstick if they really want to be bold on their mirror, I am enough. I just absolutely love the changes that I see happen to people when they get back on the phone. They're like, I'm enough. I love it. These words are so powerful.
They really are powerful. And I think when we work with the subconscious mind to really shift the feeling inside, then the outside affirmations and all of that can come into alignment, is how I see it. I often find that affirmations don't work if you don't believe them, is what happens.
Well,
Although I will tell you, the research does not support that. The research supports, like, if you continue to say it, you will shift. But, people have resistance to it, all of that kind of stuff. But I find that when we're aligning the subconscious mind, when we are aligning that belief as well, with hypnosis, with the exploration, with the rewriting, then they're much easier to do and feel inside. It's not like, someone's reading it on their mirror and thinking, well, that's bullshit, right? Like, no, you really believe it now. So it's getting in there.
Yeah. And I think when people understand how powerful the subconscious mind is, I don't think we realize until you have a little chat with someone and say how incredibly powerful it is. And there's these programs, and your subconscious mind doesn't even know how old you are. It's 95% of how you think, feel, and see the world. That alone, just understanding how to collaborate with your subconscious mind, it's a partnership, I think.
Yes, it is. Well, sometimes it doesn't feel like that, though, when people do feel like they're self-sabotaging, when they don't understand, why is my subconscious mind doing that? It doesn't feel like a partnership. I mean, I see part of our job as making it a partnership. Like, it really wants to protect you. It's trying to move towards pleasure, right? If you're talking about the pleasure principle, it is really trying to do that for you. It really isn't trying to create havoc in your life,
And
but we need to make friends with it. Like, it needs to come along, grow up a little, let's say, right? In a gentle way, like a gentle, loving, caring way.
Oh, and one of the things I always tell clients is, our conscious mind is our, thinking logic mind, and our subconscious are feeling emotion mind. And so give yourself a break when, you eat something or say something or do something and say, why did I do that? Why did I say that? Why did I eat that cake at 10 o'clock at night? Emotions will always trump logic, and your subconscious is your emotion. So let's go dig in there. Let's go find out what's going on in there, because this is not logical. This is not going to come from there. There's a feeling and emotion that if we dig down and in there, there's your answer. And I feel, that if you can just surrender a little bit to that, I know with clients when they come into a session, surrender a little bit to that, then we can really go in and get to the root cause and dig and find some freedom to we all have programs, we all have limiting beliefs, and we can, once you understand the magic of hypnotherapy and the power of it, and how our mind can respond to pictures and words and suggestions, then you're just like, oh my gosh, I want to work on something else.
It's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And I often find too that once we work on those, let's say, really important ones, like feeling worthy, feeling like you're enough, feeling like you're loved and cared for by yourself, like loving and caring for yourself, let me put it that way, then often the other ones will fall away. That self-sabotage experience will fall away. So it's like, yeah, let's work on the deeper, important ones. And then these little ones just seem to disappear, it seems like. But you can always use hypnosis or hypnotherapy to go back in and target them, really.
Yeah.
Once you have that experience and you know that it feels good and it works and it does transform your life.
Right. And with self-esteem and doubt and working with that so much with women, I always remind them, you are in the longest relationship with yourself you will ever have. The longest romance, the longest relationship. If you met the love of your life or you have the love of your life, what are the words you'd want to hear every single day? And say those to yourself and do the things you would do with someone that, do those things to yourself. I mean, the cool thing is you don't have to dress up for yourself. You don't have to shave your legs for yourself. You don't have to go nip and tuck anything for yourself. So have this long, loving, romantic relationship with yourself, because we forget the fact that this is the longest relationship we're ever going to have is with ourselves.
For sure.
So
yes.
What do you want to hear? And say those things to yourself. You're wonderful. I love hanging out with you. I love to hear the things you have to say.
Yes.
Those can be very, very powerful.
Agreed. Well, we are coming to the end of our time here. Can you please let people know how to find you if they'd like to work with you?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. So my website is wisewoods.com. It's WISE Woods, WOODS.com. And book.wisewoods.com is where you can go to schedule a 1-hour freedom to self-belief call with me. And we can go on there and schedule a time, and I will go work with you to kind of work out what is it that you want to be free from when it comes to self-doubt, and give you some rules of the mind and some tips and suggestions, and see if it's something that you want to dig in and further explore. I also have freebies and things on there too.
Okay, great. What's one of your freebies?
One of the things I'm working on now that's on there is an empowerment worksheet, a daily practice that gives you some great things to do every day to feel empowered, work on a praise muscle every day, things to say to yourself every day, little easy things that you can do, but really help empower. Everything I try to do is about empowerment. So
fantastic. Great. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for the interesting conversation today.
Thank you, Dr. Liz. I appreciate it.
I hope you truly enjoyed today's episode. Remember that you can get free hypnosis downloads over at my website, drlizhypnosis.com, DRLIZ hypnosis.com. I work all over the world doing hypnosis. So if you're interested in working with me, please schedule a free consultation over at my website, and we'll see what your goals are and if I can be of service to you in helping you reach them. Finally, if you liked today's episode, please subscribe to the podcast or tell a friend. That way, more and more people learn about the power of hypnosis. All right, everyone, have a wonderful week. Peace. This podcast is not mental health treatment, nor should it replace mental health treatment. If you need therapy or hypnotherapy, please seek treatment from a trained professional.